Once again, the House of Representatives is set to vote today on impeaching Donald Trump. It's expected to pass. It will trigger a trial in the Senate. Yesterday, Donald Trump wrote a bizarre, rambling 6-page letter to Nancy Pelosi. The letter was riddled with lies and panic, and it is a document that historians should clearly be looking at for decades to come. I've read this thing a bunch of times because it's so out there. It's so strange. It's so odd. I'm not going to read the entire letter to you, but I want to look at some sections with you. One thing about it is that it does at least seem to be written in Trump's style, in that it has that random capitalization of words in the middle of sentences and lots of exclamation points, much like in Donald Trump's Twitter posts. Donald Trump writing, "I write to express my strongest and most powerful protest against the partisan impeachment crusade being pursued by the Democrats in the House of Representatives. This impeachment represents an unprecedented and unconstitutional abuse of power," completely untrue, "by Democrat lawmakers, capital L lawmakers, unequaled in nearly 2.5 centuries of American legislative history." Donald Trump pulls out this idea that there is something unconstitutional about what is going on. And then in the second paragraph, Donald Trump goes on to say, "The articles of impeachment introduced by the House Judiciary are not recognizable under any standard of constitutional theory, interpretation, or jurisprudence. They include no crimes, no misdemeanors, and no offenses whatsoever. You have cheapened the importance of the very ugly word impeachment!" Exclamation point. So again, exclamation points, a less common punctuation device in presidential letters. And of course, exclamation points in serious writing of this type are a sign that you can't really make your arguments with logic, reason, and vocabulary. So you throw in exclamation points. But substantively, Trump again pulls out this idea that there are no crimes or misdemeanors in articles of impeachment. Therefore, you can't impeach. That's wrong. Impeachment is a political process. It doesn't require criminal wrongdoing. But a recent House Judiciary report does actually accuse the president of committing federal crimes, as I discussed with you yesterday. Then the letter goes on to attack Joe Biden, as strange as that is, saying, quote, "You know full well that Vice President Biden used his office and $1 billion of U.S. aid money to coerce Ukraine into firing the prosecutor who was digging into the company paying his son millions of dollars. You know this because Biden bragged about it on video. Biden openly stated, 'I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I looked at them and said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor is not fired, you're not getting the money.' Well, son of a bitch, he got fired." And Trump goes on to say, "Now you are trying to impeach me by falsely accusing me of doing what Joe Biden has admitted he actually did." Now, we've already talked about this. You can disagree with the decision that was made. You can say Joe Biden shouldn't have been part of that. But Biden was there at the direction of Barack Obama as part of an international group that was involved. And to even remotely liken it to Donald Trump sending Rudy, his personal lawyer, to demand smears against Biden to help Trump win an election, it's a patently ridiculous comparison. Then Trump attacks Adam Schiff, head of the House Intelligence Committee, saying Congressman Adam Schiff cheated and lied all the way up to the present day, even going so far as to fraudulently make up out of thin air my conversation with President Zelensky of Ukraine and read this fantasy language to Congress as though it were said by me. His shameless lies and deception, dating all the way back to the Russia hoax, is one of the main reasons we are here today. Of course, Schiff didn't lie or cheat. No person or elected official is perfect, but the smear campaign against Schiff is absurd. Trump then goes on to talk about how great minorities are doing. And this is where the rambling starts with really long paragraphs. Trump saying, "You and your party are desperate to distract from America's extraordinary economy, incredible jobs boom, record stock markets, soaring confidence, and flourishing citizens. Your party simply cannot compete with our record 7 million new jobs, the lowest ever unemployment for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Asian Americans, a rebuilt military, a completely reformed VA with choice and accountability for our great veterans, more than 170 new federal judges, and 2 Supreme Court justices, on and on and on." Then Trump goes on to accuse Nancy Pelosi and Democrats of being the ones interfering with elections, a classic move of projection, saying, You are the ones interfering in America's elections. You are the ones subverting America's democracy. You are the ones, capital O, obstructing justice. You are the ones bringing pain and suffering to our republic for your own selfish, personal, political, and partisan gain. And this goes on for 6 pages. Maybe my favorite line of the entire thing is where Trump says, more due process was afforded to those accused in the Salem witch trials. And then lastly, maybe the one line I agree with from the letter, Trump saying 100 years from now, when people look back at this affair, I want them to understand it and learn from it so that it can never happen to another president again. Although I know it's not what Trump meant, I do hope we have something that in the future prevents us from ever dealing with something like this again, where a president is able to simply ignore checks and balances, carry out a completely corrupt, vile agenda. Let's hope it never happens again. And we can take step one by removing Trump, which I don't see Republicans in the Senate doing. The letter must be archived for history. The letter sums up Trump's total disregard for the law, for conventions. It sums up his arrogance, his delusions of grandeur. And on some level, Trump doesn't want to be impeached. He knows the Senate is unlikely to convict. Trump might even get a boost. I think he knows that. But at the same time, on some level, Trump doesn't want to be a president impeached. The letter is riddled with lies to the point of gaslighting. It's riddled with evidence of Trump's delusions of grandeur. But it also is a desperate president who doesn't want to get impeached. And the letter happens to read like a monologue from Sean Hannity's Fox News show. I haven't looked, but it would be very unsurprising if some of this language was lifted straight from a Hannity monologue. But again, an innocent man doesn't write a letter with exclamation points attacking everyone, nor do they obstruct the investigation. An innocent man would want to prove their innocence. They would cooperate. That is not what we are seeing here on this historic day. Let me know what you expect. What do you make of all this? Leave a reply if you're watching on YouTube. Send me a tweet if you're on Twitter at @Pakman. We will take a quick break. And remember, January 1st, massive membership special. Get notified of the massive membership special on January 1 by signing up for our newsletter today at davidpakman.com. I have a really great offer for all of my viewers today. For $20, our friends at Total AV will give you a year subscription to their premium antivirus service, plus, and this is just the best, free access to their VPN on 3 of your devices when you use the link down below. The Total AV antivirus and VPN work on your desktop computer, both Mac and Windows, on your Android or iOS phones and tablets. Computers and smartphones are more at risk than ever to all sorts of attacks. Many people's computers and mobile devices are infected without you even knowing, and even Mac users are vulnerable. Any computer security expert will tell you you've got to have a layer of protection between you and the rest of the internet. Your best bet is to go with an advanced all-in-one service that's easy to use, where you can install it and just forget about it, and one that's been developed by a company that actually has a proven track record keeping phones and keeping computers safe, and that's Total AV. You set it up once, you don't have to worry about viruses or spyware, ransomware, adware, the long list of common threats you're otherwise susceptible to, and you'll get an entire year of premium antivirus for $20. That's 80% off the normal price. Click the link below. And maybe the best part of the entire thing is you'll get to use their VPN for free on 3 of your devices, keeping you totally anonymous on the internet. Fantastic deal. It's only for our viewers from a company that's been trusted in the computer security industry for years. Check out Total AV. Click the link right underneath this video.